Andrew DePaz, and I'm talking with Pastor Hall of the Willow Grove SDA Church. I'm going to just ask him a few questions.
Andrew, it's good to be here with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Some questions now.
All right, let's start with what led you to become an SDA member?
I believe God has directed me in that field. I wanted to go into computer programming, and I went to school for computer programming. I wanted to become a programmer. I learned BAL, Fortran, all of the computer languages. And then one day, I had a job offered overseas for the government, the Kwajalein Islands, which is the Marshall Islands area. And they said I was going to work on the Sabbath, on the Saturday. And although I was going to church, I was not a bona fide Christian. And I went to a tent meeting conducted by Elder C.D. Brooks. And I told C.D. Brooks, I said, Elder Brooks, I have a job offer overseas. I'm going to work on the Sabbath. What do you think about that? And he said to me, well, you could choose between heaven or hell. That's all he said. When I went home that night, I started to cry. And the Spirit of God says, go to Oakwood and become a preacher. That's the last thing I wanted to be, a preacher. But God showed me that it's not in my will, it's His will. And then that's when I went to school, became a preacher.
Have you ever thought about leaving the ministry?
Oh yeah, several times. Several times, one in Delaware, one when I was pastoring in Philadelphia. I wrote a letter to the president and let him know I quit. You know, sometimes it's easier to close your eyes to what the Spirit of God is really saying to you. The Spirit of God says, don't do it. But I wanted to quit. So yeah, there were times I wanted to quit and get out of the ministry.
So how did you persevere and continue your
Persevere is through, somebody was praying for me. Somebody wrote me a letter and said, Pastor, we're praying for you. No matter what you're going through, God is able to keep you. And that really caused me to go back on my knees and start praying. And that's when God says, go back into the ministry. Get back into the ministry. Start preaching again. Don't worry about what people have to say. God called you, and no man in the world can do anything to shut you out of the kingdom of God.
So what message do you have for young men growing up in this society?
I would say be faithful. Have a desire to listen to the voice of God. God speaks to us in many ways, not only through the word, through sermons, but God speaks with us inside. He talks to us and He leads us. Listen to Him. Not listen to your friends, listen to people around you, but listen to God. That's the main thing I would tell young people. Don't be fooled with the things of this world. Listen to the power, and He will guide you in everywhere you want to go.
How do you think we should focus on the ministry's growth and expanding it to our youth?
I want the youth to become dedicated. This church was started by young people, teenagers who just had a desire to do whatever God wanted them to do. And our young people have to have the same thing. You have to have such a dedication to minister to the Spirit of God and to those around you. You have young people who just need help, and we have to be there for them. Sometimes it doesn't take us to preach a sermon. It's just to love them and let them know that they are special. So I like to see our young people who can involve themselves. If it's nothing more than go out and pray for people, or just help people understand that only in Jesus that they can have eternal life. There's only power that you have that I don't have. You're able to talk to other young people that I may not be able to do. But if you show your love, how God can lead you, then I think the young people can feel that they are part of this church and part of the ministry of Jesus.
Yeah, I like that message of empowering the youth. How do you think Christian education will help with that?
Education is not only in an institution, in a school. Christian education is at home, it's with your parents, it's in the church, and it's coming to Sabbath school, for example, was my highlight of my growth. Because when I went to Sabbath school, especially as a young person, I began to learn. And although I kind of strayed away from it, it's still stuck within me that I can always come back. So Christian education is more than just going to a school. It's having a relationship with Jesus.
Do you think pastors in the modern times are more becoming pastors because it's a calling that God has called them to be, or is it a profession?
Some pastors look at it as a profession. Maybe they can speak well, they can influence people. Sometimes pastors can get into this responsibility in the wrong way. But you have to be called. And you have to know God is calling you in ministry. When God called me, I didn't worry about the money. What I have to go back to school. Or I didn't have money for school. I know one time I was just out for a whole year without working, but just doing ministry. We had a tent meeting in Philadelphia where over 35 people were baptized, young people. And I didn't have money to go back to school. But when I went to the financial officer of the school, they said, "What do you need the money for?" They looked at my record, and I had over $2,000 on my record. I don't know how I got on there. But sometimes if God says he will open up the windows of heaven and pour out blessings, he means it. So I didn't worry about it, I didn't get into it for a paycheck. I got into it because I just wanted to serve God.
As you grow older, how do you want to be remembered by people around you?
That I help people. I love people. I encourage people. That's the only thing I want to be remembered. Not if I had a good sermon or two, but if I love people. That's my desire.
So is community service one of your favorite
Oh yeah.
activities?
Oh yeah. Helping people. I love with the feeding program, even at the church here. Times I'm not working with the conference, I'm here at the church, unloading the truck, helping pass out the food, going into the neighborhood. I know one time I went to a neighborhood with one of our neighbors, and I said, do you need food? Brought him to the community service and packed him up with food. I love doing that. I love working. I love working we have a mission program at the Mizpah Church. I love working with, at the table, helping people. Not only preaching or teaching or whatever, but just serving people. I think that's God's work, is to serve people. Not necessarily be up front all the time. I like being in the background.
What is one of your favorite hobbies that most people wouldn't think you participate in?
I like music. I played the saxophone, I played the flute, I used to play the clarinet, I used to play the trumpet, and I used to have a band. I love music. And I don't sing, but I can play. And that's my habit, my hobby, playing instruments.
Maybe we should do a duet sometime, since
I'm hoping that we can do it. You play the piano, I play the flute.
Okay.
I played with this gentleman, we called ourselves Something Different. He played the guitar, I played the flute. We played in crusades and churches and auditoriums. We were good. And I love to play with you.
Okay.
I heard you play. You're good.
Thank you.
All right. Keep on practicing. God bless you, man.
You too.
Okay.